Good evening. It is 5:15 this Tuesday evening, July 25th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, one and all. Tonight's agenda is before us. We'll begin first, roll call. Misty is absent. Otherwise, everybody else is present. Consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes of the July 10th, 2023 meeting. We have approval of this cycle's bills and claims. We have a couple of licenses and permits. We have a renewal of a Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service with J. Muggenberg LLC, DBA Hourglass LLC, and the second one is a renewal of a Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service with Las Tarascas, yeah, you know what I'm saying, Mexican market down the street. And then we also, in the agenda, is Carroll Slow Pitch Wall Repair, the bid opening, and that is included in our packet. Is there any questions or comments about tonight's consent agenda? And if not, I would request a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Tom?
Second.
Seconded by JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Streck? Yes. Bauer?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Item number 4 is oral requests and communications from the audience. This would be an opportunity for anybody to come forward to the council to express their views or opinions and for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. There is one.
Mayor,
Yeah. Hello, Barry.
Barry Bruner. I got the urge this afternoon to come and talk to the council because this last few weeks has been tremendous. The people, and of course, I spent way too much time with the mayor down at Merchants
Other than
Park.
that, it was a
Other than that,
tremendous
it was a
week.
Very, 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 very pleasant. But it is so cool to have all of these people coming to our town and loving every minute. And it doesn't, that's not an accident that happens. It starts with good leadership. It starts with great people, hardworking people that put in the time to make these things go. The bikers are gone. The merchants got beat last night down in Clarinda. And state baseball's over with, but it was cool. And I just want to thank your leadership here at the council, plus all of our citizens who just really worked their tails off, including my brother was seen hanging around a lot of those places. I don't know whether it was the beer gardens or what it was that got him involved.
He's not smiling.
He's not smiling.
Had a good time.
in the morning. I did witness that.
Really, really.
Just in the morning?
Were you, obviously you weren't doing any work, were you? All right. Okay. One final event down at Merchants. And we'll come back and visit a little bit about the things that we need to do to continue to attract these sorts of events. But this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is the 45th Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association All-Star Games. 2 games, I think, on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and 2 on Saturday. There may be more, but they have small east, small west, large east, large west schools. And they have these all-star baseball players. It'll be tremendous baseball, high school baseball. So anyway, I just had the urge to thank everyone for all of the work. And Brad and his crew, do you have anybody on duty? And did the fire department help at all? Did he? Okay, all right, I was just, not very much, but again, and I don't want to start naming people, but holy smokes, thank you, and thank you for the citizens for pitching in. It was fabulous. It was just a smile, just constant.
Yeah. I was gonna wait until the end of the meeting, but now you got that. I got some numbers here. The merchant's been averaging about 500 people a game. Some up, some down, but the last game they had was right at 1,000.
Yeah.
So state baseball averaged between 400 and 600 a game. So, you know, that's, to be compared to state baseball, that's pretty good.
That's pretty darn good,
And,
right?
you know, I drove a cart for 4 days down there for 6 hours a day.
That's why he's limping around.
That was yesterday, how's that? Just nothing but good comments.
Oh.
You know, and people, they got the time in between games and so they just drive around town and, you know, the town looked good and, you know, prepared for Ragbri and all that too, but, you know,
And the
just,
fans of the teams that got beat as they left, Mark,
thank you.
thanked us, they
you,
thanked us, they
Council,
thanked
thank you.
us, and they
And
just
one of-
loved it.
One of the reasons I want to bring that up is because when we get into February, when we do our budget, we need to pay attention to these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
we got to direct where our money's going to go. You know, we got to. These are numbers that are important because that's, you know, 1,000 people at one game. That's all community people, pretty well. Maybe 30-mile radius, but that's something we have to pay attention to when we do our budget. Ragbri, again, all good comments. Just there was a lot of work by a lot of people. The one thing that made me think on this a little bit, one person said, you know, this place will be clean when we leave tomorrow, don't worry about it. And they said if they don't respect a town and clean up after themselves, then those towns don't want them back, and then Ragbri's done. So,
Fabulous. Again, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Laverne. You know, Dave, after his comments about us, I'm not quite so sure we're going to volunteer for his All-Star tournament. He's going to have
We'll have to reconsider.
have to reconsider, don't you think? You know, one thing that did, I'll get with you in just a second, sir, is something that got sandwiched between these two things, and I wrote about it this Friday. Talk about an impact and number of eyeballs on the city of Carroll was the RPM car show. It was Saturday, and I mean, they just blew the doors off. They had the unofficial count when I was out there. I counted license plates from 12 counties and 3 states, and they had 240 registrants and another 100 and some
there's a lot of
club
people.
cars
There's a lot of people
there, and it was just packed. And they all had to buy their gas here because, you know, those gas guzzling muscle cars got to make their way back too, you know. So, I mean, the economic impact of that too is not to be, you know, overlooked. And they just did an outstanding job. So with that, that's the only thing I'm going to add. Young man, you've got something to approach the council on, and we'll get to you here. Name and address, sir.
Brett Sommerfeld. I live in Glidden, but I own a business here in town. I am just had a question and possibly just wondering if something could be considered on all-terrain vehicle UTV code in town. I noticed actually just the other day that the ATVs were actually not allowed to drive other than for snow removal, I believe.
8 ATVs?
Yeah,
Correct.
ATVs.
That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was just kind of wondering on the reasoning for that and if there's any possibility of considering allowing them in town as well as the UTVs.
Mostly due to directional signals and safety devices that UTVs commonly had. And that was a discussion when we allowed this early in the year. Do you want to add anything more to that? Speed, maybe?
I think we were just trying to tiptoe our way into this, so we don't want to open up too fast, too quick. Kind of see how it was going to go, so.
Yeah.
There's probably some safety issues with UTVs. I don't know, top of my head, I have to do some research on it. I know we've got a ton of stuff in the past that we've had. I know Carolyn had quite a bit of stuff too when we first looked at UTVs 6 or 8 years ago, so maybe we can revisit it if you want. I don't have a good answer right now, just
Yeah.
not prepared for UTV or ATV talk at this point.
Right.
I like the idea, though, that we're tiptoeing our way into it because it wasn't without trepidation.
Right.
I shared this at that time. I was on the Board of Supervisors back in 2010. Yeah, 2010, I believe, was when we allowed it out in the county, and it wasn't with, you know, safety concerns. Unfortunately, we did, you know, have a fatality here
Right.
just a month or so back, and
Right.
accidents are going to happen. We get that. That was the true definition of an accident.
Right.
When it involves ATVs, I think there was also a little bit of concern, a saddle seat and whether or not you would have like a secondary occupant on that as well. Whereas a UTV is more prepared for that with seat belts and that type of thing. But you made your case and it's something that the council can certainly consider within the coming months if they want to expand it or leave it as is. Does anybody else have any comments in reply to Brett?
Well, my understanding is the ATVs don't have all the or traffic signals, brake lights,
Right.
and all that stuff, and
They
seat belts.
They do have taillights, brake lights,
No,
two
no,
headlights.
no turn signals.
No turn signals, but motorcycles aren't required turn signals either, I don't believe. They can use hand signals, I believe.
By state code, that's correct, but we did require them in our UTV ordinance.
Which also, UTVs do not come with turn signals. They are an add-on feature that can also be added.
But they have to
on.
have them for our ordinance.
Right, I'm just saying that an ATV would also have to add it on, just like the side-by-sides have to add it to their machine as well. So it'd be kind of like you can buy the same kits and stuff to
Okay.
install into them. So, that's all that I have.
You got any thoughts, Kyle? I remember you were the one that brought this to the council
Yeah.
several months ago, so.
I really don't. My only thing would be safety concern, not having a seatbelt, but then I look at it as a motorcycle too, is
Right, I mean,
there's
a
no
seatbelt
seatbelt in
with a
that.
roll cab a roll cage would be
Yeah.
productive.
Yeah,
I mean, it could also come with a helmet regulation, just like the 14-year-olds that ride mopeds and stuff.
yeah,
Or under, I guess it's under 18 that ride mopeds or something.
yeah.
But that's all that I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, there are no ordinances tonight. We'll move to item number 6 under resolutions. We've got a couple of them here. The first one is Region 12 COG Home Construction Agreement, something we've been talking about the last several meetings, and I think we've kind of got a final product here, and I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
After the housing committee met, we kind of went over the Region 12 agreement. We made some changes. You can see those in my memo. What changes were made, and felt that that was a product ready for the council to approve and go back to Region 12 with.
Do you have any highlights there that you'd like to point out? Changes were outlined in our memo, but
Yeah,
just
I
for
guess
further discussion.
the main points were is that instead of giving Region 12 the entire amount of money over the 3 or 4 year period, we were gonna keep the money and then be invoiced back when they were ready to make purchases. Along with, the dollar amount per house was left the same at $30,000 a lot or a house. I can't think of anything else.
It's no no sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, and the
Yeah.
city wouldn't be putting in the sidewalks as they had requested.
And we changed the ceiling amount. We changed this, there was a ceiling amount that we had, and then we changed that.
Of 3 per year is what you're saying? So if they did all 10 in 1 year,
We're fine with that.
which we just guess probably won't happen, but if it does, we would fund that.
Again, at a, per unit
Right,
billing
pay
rather
as we
than.
go,
Yeah.
we thought, yeah. And regarding the sidewalks, we considered the sidewalk ordinance, and we just thought, we're just gonna stick with the ordinance and be consistent, otherwise we're gonna have other scenarios, possibilities open up. So we wanna be consistent in how we apply our ordinances.
Any other questions for Aaron? I have none. So the recommendation is the consideration and approval of the attached resolution with Region 12 under the current, or under this new revised agreement. Is there a motion to move forward with that?
So moved.
Carolyn, and seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cornell?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Schreck? Resolution's approved.
Thank you. And then, so now we're going to talk, your posing as Randy for this one, at least for now, and then you guys can talk more finance. But Randy's absent tonight, and we're going to talk about the stormwater improvements we talked about the last couple of weeks. And the professional service agreement first is the only action that we have to, or are asked to act upon with an attached resolution to move forward with the professional service agreement with them. And then also further discussion about the debt issuance plan and how to restructure. So I'll turn it over to you first, Aaron, and then Laura when needed.
As you recall, we talked about the stormwater, issue that JEO did a study on here last council meeting. They gave us two different options. The council chose to go with, doing both options at one time to save money on,
Like interest?
no.
No, or bringing.
Oh, yeah,
Bring equipment.
rather than making
No.
it two, yeah, two different.
Mobilization.
Okay,
Mobilization.
yeah.
And, so JEO's got a service agreement set to, do the design work for the entire project, and, that's what we have in front of us right now for that.
Any questions for Aaron, posing as Randy? So the recommendation is that the city council would consider the passage and approval of the resolution. The agreement number amendment 1 with JEO, professional services for stormwater improvement project at a cost of $191,500. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, Tom
Second.
and Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Vornero,
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Track. Yes. Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank you. And then we'll just kind of go to discuss this debt issuance plan in there. Again, it's included in your memo, but we'll go ahead and you want to turn it over to Laura at this time?
She'll be more eloquently able to explain this than I will.
Okay, Randy. I won't ask you to be Laura too, how about that? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. So this is just a time to discuss the debt. At the last council meeting, actually it was 2 council meetings ago, I believe, now that we first talked about the storm improvement project, and questions at that time were asked about how we would finance that using a combination of stormwater fees that have been collected thus far and some debt. And then if we were doing one whole big project versus maybe phasing it. So what you just approved was looking at the project being done all at once. And then we've got in here some funds for the portion to not the whole amount of debt service for the project. So it'd be still a combination of debt service and stormwater user fees. The amount of the stormwater user fees was, sorry, not the fees, the amount of the debt was picked out to be roughly where it could be financed with stormwater user fees of roughly half of the amount of the fees that we collect on an annual basis, which is around, we collect around $260,000. So we worked with Suzanne at PFM and said, we're looking at a debt issuance where we could service this with about $125,000 a year. And it would take about 11 years to repay that. Well, in the meantime, as we are looking at this debt issuance, we have a couple other needs that are still out there. Plus, we have a pre-levy resolution that we did for our fiscal '24, the current fiscal year we're in, that we're collecting taxes on for a couple of projects. One being the rec center improvement project. We had always been planning on issuing $700,000 to finish up or to continue to finance that project, as well as Randy had suggested, let's look at maybe increasing the size of our street resurfacing 2024 project, so that when we bundle this debt issuance for all 3 of these projects, it's a decent size instead of trying to go to the market with a smaller size. 2.6 million advice from PFM is a good amount to looking to go to the market with, as opposed to under $1 million. So that's why we are bringing forth, looking at bundling this all together for 3 of these projects. Tonight is a time to talk about a discussion, ask questions. None of this is etched in stone at this point, because there definitely will be steps that council will need to take to officially issue the debt that we will work with our bond counsel on to do that. This is all being structured so that we still would maintain the debt service levy at about $1.40. What we've talked about for a number of years now. As well as take into account, doing a major street reconstruction project like we're doing now with Adam Street, doing the next one in 2025 and then again in 2028. So that was all factored in when we talked to Suzanne at PFM to come up with this debt issuance proposal.
Brilliant. No, brilliant.
So we talked with her about, you know, we would be looking at issuing this probably in the spring. So,
And at the last conversation you were having with her, we were still getting a rate that, I found that hard to believe, but it was,
I think the actual market rate, they're pricing, she priced one, I think she said somewhere over 3.5% and 4%.
yeah. And we don't have to make a decision tonight, but I would encourage the council to keep encouraging Laura, and then let's move forward with it while we can. I don't see them going backwards anytime soon. I'm no,
Interest rates probably not. No, but we need to get a little bit further down, I think, in the planning process with a couple of these other projects.
yeah, I'm sure we do, but I would say Keep
before
our-
we issue the debt.
keep our foot on the throttle, right? Do you agree? All of you?
Oh, yeah.
What was our average income on this? On the stormwater improvements?
We're collecting somewhere in the range of 250 to 260,000 a year.
And what are we gonna spend a year for 11 years?
125,000.
Yeah.
Half of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way this is kind of structured was to do 125 a year. Then that still leaves some annual funding to do some other smaller stormwater projects that may come up.
Okay.
We didn't feel it was prudent for us to say, hey, let's use it all and get it, you know, we think it's better to work over time to kind of repay the debt service fund back for this.
Do you know what our current balances are now?
1.7 million in the
Stormwater
stormwater
improvement?
service. Yeah, in stormwater right now, it's about 1.7, so we're gonna use that to pay the bulk of the costs.
We don't use all those fees that, again, we wanna leave a little bit of a balance
Yeah.
for some eventual or some other
Okay.
smaller needs that may come up in the near future, as opposed to tying it all up right now and then you're strapped and don't have
Okay.
any funding there for a smaller project. Plus, we have been utilizing roughly, I think it's around $100,000 of the collections or the fees that we collect every year to go towards a street project. So we are still utilizing some funds, so if not all that 260,000 should be probably tied into this one project.
So if I read this right, we're going to borrow 2.6, right?
Yes,
And the cost of the construction is almost 2.6 on the other, right?
yes. Right, and on this, so the debt issuance for the stormwater improvements is at 1.2, plus we use cash on hand to make up the difference.
Okay.
And what the eventual total cost of the project would be.
Okay. I just don't wanna get us so thin that we have trouble down the road, and this eliminates that.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll keep talking about that, but we felt that this was a good landing spot too.
Okay.
So hopefully as the planning continues, you know, and the cost estimates from the engineer comes back, you know, they're hopefully in this very early preliminary range, that they stay in there, that if they don't balloon up, then we might have to have another discussion about where to go with the debt issuance or something like that.
Okay.
But I know council had asked a question about the financing of the project, so we wanted to bring something back for discussion and to have council start thinking about what might be a good plan going forward.
And whereas it still may somewhat impact and increase our overall debt capacity, I mean, what we've got issued, you know, it still leaves the levy the same.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have plenty of debt capacity at this point. Yes, that's not a concern when you talk about our 5% debt limit.
right. I guess what I was saying more specifically as far as what our current outstanding debt is and what it's projected to be, you know, it's going to increase with this, but again, by leaving the levy the same, it won't have a, you know, negative impact
Yes.
in that respect. So, no, that's fine.
Yep.
Plus you still have your safety net in place.
Right. No, I think it's brilliant. I really do. I use that word and it's the best way to describe it.
It's a good plan. Yeah.
Any other questions on this? Don't need to make a decision on that right now, but
Right.
again, as I asked earlier, council's pretty well giving you a thumbs up, keep moving forward.
Yeah, we'll keep working with Suzanne as time goes on, because as we figure out how the tax reform bill, property tax reform bill will impact us, that'll all get figured into this as well. There is some built into this, I would say, but obviously we don't have
Right.
our actual assessed values, so.
Yeah, that's another thing I hadn't thunk of, but yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
we
that.
talked about that with her as well.
We'll have to have a game plan together with, working with our TIF and assessed values in the TIF areas, along with what our overall assessed values are to mitigate and manage that or the 810 levy.
Yep, okay,
Yep.
good, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'll keep you on cue for the next thing. That is the fiscal year 23 year-end transfers resolution, just a matter of doing business.
Yes, yep, at the end of the year, we always take a look at, our fund balances, and there are state requirements that some of our funding is deposited into what we call special revenue fund or our enterprise funds. However, when we finance some projects or pay for some expenses, they may get paid out of a different fund. So what this does is to move those funds out of where they originally deposited, move them into where the expenses occurred, and then in essence, kind of true up our books as of June 30th, because we get audited as of June 30th, and then that's just that snapshot in time of our financial position. So all these transfers that are proposed tonight were a part of the re-estimated balances our fiscal 23 re-estimated balances when we prepared our fiscal 24 budget. I won't go through all of them, but if you do have any specific questions, I would be happy to address them.
I think your memo summarizes everything sufficient enough for everybody, but if there are any questions, I urge you to ask them now. If there are none, I would seek a motion per recommendation to approve the attached resolution authorizing the fiscal year 22-23 transfer. Is there a motion to that effect?
Moved.
Laverne, seconded by JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek? Yes. Dirk?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Cornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect, thank you. And you're still on deck here, so this was a new one on me. I read the memo, and I even had to ask for a little clarity from Aaron. State set-off program, so you want to take it from there?
Yes, I received an email from the Iowa Department of Revenue a few weeks ago about this. We had always called it the income offset program when the Department of Administrative Services was administering it. We've been a part of this program since 2009. The city, what happens is if you have, the easiest scenario, our most common that we have in the office is we have a utility customer who fails to make payments, possibly leaves town, and then there's a balance left on their utility account when they leave. We can turn that over to the state of Iowa, and they have what's called this, well, they call it now set-off program. I'm so used to the income offset, sorry. So set-off program, where if they're owed money from the state, either from gambling winnings or your state income taxes, we can take those funds to pay for this outstanding debt with the city. It had been administered by the Iowa Department of Administrative Services up until this point, but now it's transitioning to the Iowa Department of Revenue. And so they are asking that we enter into this memorandum of understanding. The way I read it, it seems like it's gonna mostly run the same way it has always been running. We would submit the information to the state. They will process if there's money owed from the state and then remit the funds back to us. There's one small administrative change where right now we send, when there is what they call a hit, a notification that there's money owed to this person from the state, the city has to send a letter stating that, hey, you have a chance to pay for this and then you can have your money from the state, or we're gonna take the funds from the state, money that is owed to you. It sounds like through this new process, the state will be sending that notification and not us. So, kind of excited about that. Otherwise, it seems like, well, from what I'm reading this, it's all the same, pretty much the same administrative process.
I have no questions. Does anybody on the council?
I forgot to mention, we did, as of course, Friday at like 5 o'clock, an email came from the Iowa Department of Revenue that the memo was updated from what was in the agenda packet. You all have a copy on your desk tonight. Basically, the main change of that was to let you know that there is a minimum amount, which currently there is today. There needs to be a minimum amount of debt outstanding in order to submit it of $50. The first memo didn't state that, or the way they stated it, it was not correct. But this, it says like some administrative code, but the dollar amount's $50. So if somebody owes us $20, we can't submit it, but if somebody owes us $60, we can submit it.
All right. I get it. Any questions, council? So the recommendation here is we have, once again, have a resolution to approve the MOU with the state. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, so JJ and then seconded by Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Schreck? Yes. Cornero?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Very good. Okay, and finally, under reports, we have a vicious animal appeal hearing. And I will turn it over, Laura wrote the memo, but I'll turn it over to Dave to kind of set some rules here, and I'll add a few things before we turn it over.
Thank you, Mayor. Council is familiar with these appeals over the last few months, but I will just summarize again for council purposes. This is the time to conduct the vicious dog appeal and for the council to hear the evidence of witnesses and any other evidence that might be presented. After the hearing, or after hearing the evidence, the council must either affirm or reverse the declaration made by the chief of police. To determine if a dog is vicious, and this is pursuant to our code, the dog must have attacked a domestic animal or human without provocation and while at large. And our code also defines at large as being off the premises of the owner and not under the control of a competent person. So again, council has heard this before, but I thought I would just reiterate for your purposes tonight. With that, Mayor, I'll hand it back over to you.
Perfect, thank you, Dave. Just a couple of things, a little housekeeping. How this essentially works is the police department, specifically Brad at this point and Officer Farron, will offer testimony to uphold the vicious dog declaration. And then anybody that's going to give testimony will be sworn in, similar to how a court of law works. And then after that, we will have anybody that wants to speak in favor of the council to reverse the declaration. They'll have that same opportunity as well. Very important to note that the decision will rest entirely with the council either way. And another thing that's kind of important is Councilwoman Schreck has asked to be recused from this due to a potential conflict of interest. With Misty being gone, we just now have 4 council members that will vote on the decision. So did I miss anything?
I might just add that there does need to be an affirmative vote of 3 council people to either affirm or reverse.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Brad.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, thank you. I'll just kind of run through the call log as far as when it happened and where it occurred at, and then I'll have Officer Farron come up and give more detail. He was the investigating officer on the case. This was reported to the comm center on the 7th of June at 9:09 p.m. And it was reported a little bit after the incident. The incident's reported to happen at approximately 7:30 at that same date. The location of the incident, where are you going to put the map up? Is reported to be near the intersection of 11th and North Ridge, which is the newer section on the eastern side of the town. Just to give you kind of a geographical location of where that's at. Officer Farron was reporting officer for this, and he met with the the party whose dog was attacked, and we also met with the Menke's, I think, on a later date, but he'll give you more information on that, so. You wanna come on up?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Officer Farron. Just go ahead and well, first state your name, and then just if you want to run through your case, what your involvement was and what you learned through your investigation.
Yep, my name is Justin Farron. So on this date of the incident, I got a call from Brian Mentor, basically letting me know that his dog was attacked. If I remember correctly, he wasn't in the area and he wanted me to follow up on it. He gave me a person's name who may have been a witness to the situation that happened that took place with the dog bite. I ended up tracking down the witness and spoke with her, and she gave me some very good information supporting what Brian Mentor had called me about his dog. I asked the witness if they could write me a witness statement about the incident that took place, and she provided me with an email of the situation that took place, and it was a very good, detailed witness statement. I wasn't able to get a hold of anybody at this current residence where the dog was being lives, and I think it was approximately 5 days after the actual incident, I got a hold of Cynthia and spoke with her. Met with her at her residence. She stated she was aware of the situation that took place, that a dog sitter was watching her dog at the time. At that time and date, I did cite her for animal at large for her dog being off that property and attacking the other dog. I think it was 2 days after that, I ended up serving her with the notice of the vicious animal notice for him. When I was there talking to them about it, they were very upset due to the circumstances, I understand. They were also upset that I didn't investigate thoroughly, that I did not meet their dog and come visit them at the house. Per the specific incident, I did not find it very important to meet their dog. With this incident, their dog actually attacked another dog, meaning that their dog is very animal aggressive, not human aggressive, which meeting that dog would mean nothing to me. If it attacked a human being, yeah, I would have met the dog to see how it acted towards me also. But with the dog being animal aggressive, I didn't really see that being important at all. But from then, that's pretty much the gist of it. You guys have any questions?
Is there a copy of the witness statement?
Yeah, and she's here to speak also.
Okay.
Where'd all this happen? We got a screen in front of us, but
I'm
nothing.
gonna have, so Brooke, who was walking the dog, she's a juvenile that was walking the dog. I'll have her come up and show the location, where she was walking at along the sidewalk.
And if you guys have any more questions later on, I'll be more than happy to come
Was this
back
dog
up.
on a leash?
Dog was not on a leash. The victim's dogs were on the leash.
Okay.
Any other questions for Officer Farron? Thanks.
Yep.
It's Brooke, and we have one of her parents want to come up with her.
Can I have you raise your right hand? Do you promise that what you're gonna tell us today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, why don't you come up here and tell the council who you are?
I'm Brooke.
I'll just ask her a couple questions that might make it easier for her to explain what was going on. Brooke, who were you with when you were out walking your dog the night that the incident happened? Do you recall?
My sister.
Okay, what's your sister's name?
Bridget.
Bridget. Okay. The map in front of you. Do you recognize the neighborhood from above and the map ahead of you? It might be kind of confusing. So your house is not listed on there, but it's a little bit south, and your mom might be able to point more out for you on that one.
You wanna show her where your house is? So we're down here, okay? Just point where you are.
You just point about where you were at when it happened. Okay. Were you walking on the sidewalk or the street or the grass? Do you recall?
Sidewalk.
Okay. And then was your dog on a leash at all? Your dog was on a leash. What kind of dog is it? How big do you think it is?
10 pounds.
Okay, good. And then, did you see the other dog before it got up to you? You did see it. Where did you see it at?
Coming out of the garage.
Do you know which house of the garage it was coming out? Which house? That one right there. Okay.
I think this one.
Okay. Was there anybody outside with it?
I think they were in the garage.
In the garage. Okay. Was the dog on a leash or a chain at all?
No.
No. Okay. What happened when a dog came out of the garage?
He came running to my dog, and then he started biting it and barking, and then my dog was like running around me, and then leash got like tangled around me, and then when I was trying to pick up my dog, the dog was jumping up and trying to bite my dog.
Okay. Did you or your sister get bit at all? Did you get scratched at all? From it jumping on you at all? No. Okay. When the leash got tangled around, did you fall down? Nope. You were able to stay up. Okay. After you got the dog in your hand, what did you do? Did you stay right there? Did you try to go home, or what did you do?
We started walking home, and this girl came with us.
Okay. Did you walk back the direction you came from, or did you keep going on your route you were planning?
We kept going like forward
Okay.
instead of going back.
Gotcha. Do you know what kind of injuries your dog had at all?
Like bite marks and scratches.
Okay. And did one of your parents take it to the vet clinic? Okay. I don't have any more questions for Brooke if you guys do.
Does the council have any questions for Brooke? None at this time, thank you.
Karen, can I have you just tell what the injuries were too? Maybe we'll have to swear you in though.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're going to say today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
If you, yeah, I want to know what, if you took it to the vet clinic, which one it went to and what, if there's any injuries that they diagnosed it with.
He was taken out to Carroll Vet Clinic the next morning. We did call the night it happened, but nobody called back. So we took him in the next morning. They just did x-rays to make sure that his leg wasn't broken because he wasn't walking on it at all. He wouldn't put any weight on it. Nothing was broken. He did have a really high temperature, so they gave him a steroid shot to bring that down, and then he was given pain pills to take for 5 days.
And fully recovered, I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, I mean, about a week it took before he was back to himself, but he's, yes, fully recovered.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any questions for Karen? Did you obviously incurred a veterinary bill?
Yes, and they
Okay.
did pay for that.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Amanda Reesberg's still back there. If you can come up too, please, Amanda. She's the witness that Officer Farron was speaking about earlier.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Thank you. You just want to kind of point on the map to your location of where you saw this happen and kind of run through what happened that evening that you
Yeah.
witnessed.
Absolutely. So this is my house here on the corner of North Ridge Drive and 11th Street, which is 2 houses east of Minky's and 2 houses north of Mincer's. So I have a door like right here that I heard barking. So I looked outside and I saw the girls walking by. And from my vantage point, it was actually on my property. Where I saw it all kind of take place. So I was watching, I heard barking, I watched just to kind of see what was going on. Initially from where I was, it looked like at first the dogs were kind of sniffing each other. And then I turned my back and I heard sounds that made it obvious that that wasn't the case anymore. So I ran out. There was actually another neighbor that came to help as well. The dog sitter was there and had a hold of Bear and was trying to contain him. By the time I got there, the girls had their dog and were holding their dog. So I took the girls and actually walked them up until we got to about here so that we could see that the dogs were inside and that they were, that they were safe. And so I walked with the girls for a little bit, just asked, "Are you okay?" And I did not know the girls at the point in time, but they told me they lived nearby and they said they'd be okay to walk home. They were carrying their dog. They were obviously very upset. But from everything I saw, they were on the sidewalk. They were just walking their dog, and then the other dogs ran towards them. They're actually, Minkies have 3 dogs, they actually all ran towards, and 2 of them ran home immediately when they were called off. So the other 2 were not there when anything happened.
Did you see who called them off? Who was?
There was a dog sitter there.
Okay, thank
She
you.
called the dogs off and they came immediately, and she was holding Bear to the best of her ability too.
And Bear, is that the Menke dog?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And did you see the Menke dog on a leash at all?
No.
No, okay.
Go over the locations of the dog owners again.
So Minkies live here, and then my house is here, and Mincer's are right down here, just south of me.
They're off. They're not on the map.
Yeah, they're not on
across
the map
street.
here.
All right, now I got it straight. All right,
This is 10th Street, and their house is right here.
okay.
Council have any other questions for the witness? You good?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Are there any other witnesses?
No, nothing for us.
Okay, so thank you. So at this time, we would welcome and encourage anybody who wants to speak on behalf of reversing.
There's pictures of the dog, and
Everybody
I'd
get
like
one
to
of
show a
those.
video of the dog
Just the
too.
council members get one of them, please.
Can I ask a question or not?
Not quite at this time, but you'll get an opportunity, I promise you.
Jerry, do you want to stand? Then both have you raise your hand together. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, there is a discrepancy as to where it happened. If you look in your file under it says Molly. Molly was our caretaker. She's a 22-year-old girl, and she was taking care of the dogs that night. And if you look we were on the front side, it's like the 4th sentence down. We were on the front side of the house, and I saw her start running. This took place on the sidewalk in front of the Steinbach's house. If I remember right, it was closer to Cindy and Jared's property line. So this is a girl that was actually there, and she says the incident took place on Cindy and Jared's property line.
You want to point that out on the map? This map.
Go ahead, honey.
It would be, this is our house, so it'd be somewhere in between Steinbach's and ours. We weren't there, just going off what she said, so be somewhere in here.
Okay.
All right, I have written down what I'm going to say just because I'm obviously a little nervous. Hello, my name is Cindy Menke, and I am here with my husband Jared. We are here to explain to you why we think our beloved dog Bear should be brought back home to us. First of all, we'd like to once again tell the Menser family we are sorry for the confusion that took place between both of our small dogs, our dog's small as well. This happened while we were out of town, no excuse, but it's just unfortunate. As soon as we were given the name and the location of the Menser family, my husband went directly to their home to talk things over and give them the money to cover the vet bill. On June 7th, our dog sitter Molly called me to tell me that Bear and another dog got in a spat in front of our house. She said she didn't think either dog was hurt, but didn't know where the other dog came from or where the owners lived. Jared and I didn't think much of it because we've had Bear for 4 years, and she's never hurt or attacked an animal or a person. In fact, she is just the opposite. She is gentle, playful, and a very sweet dog. Bear lives with Jared, myself, and our daughter, Jersey. She loves to roughhouse play with our 2 other dogs. If you know dogs, when they play, they mouth each other's legs. Mouthing is when they playfully grab each other's legs with their mouths and teeth. This is not an attack to be vicious, but rather a playful gesture that dogs often do. Our dogs do this at home all the time with each other. Bear even does this with my neighbor's dog, Leo, a golden retriever. They grab each other's legs and then let go. Leo's owner, Lizzie, has written a statement to back up this claim. I have her statement in your file folder with the name Lizzie at the top of it. Lizzie says, in the time that I have been around the Minkies, I have never seen their dog, Bear, be vicious. I have known Bear since they brought her home as a puppy. I have a golden retriever named Leo, and they have interacted numerous times and played together. They do playfully bite each other around the legs, but it is never rough. It is all in fun, and the dogs have never hurt each other. Bear has always been very gentle. My kids have interacted with Bear many times, and she has always been very gentle with them as well. I have never seen her get rough with anyone or heard her growl at anyone. Bear is a sweet dog with a playful personality, and I would never question my dog or family members being around her. Let me get me some water. The reason I'm mentioning this is type of play is because we truly in our hearts believe Bear ran up to the dog out of excitement to initiate play. She started to mouth the other dog's leg as a way of being playful, not as being a vicious attack. Molly, our dog sitter, in her written statement says the same thing. I also have a written statement with you in your folder. It says Molly at the top. And I have highlighted where Molly also says she thought they were and she was initiating play. Molly was present at the scene and saw everything. The other dog, being new to the neighborhood and having never met Bear before, became scared. The girls reacted in a frightened manner, which is totally understandable. Within seconds, the incident was over with both dogs being picked up. The fact that the vet report came back clear of anything serious, no broken bones, no blood, no lacerated skin, and also on the vet report it says 2 words, dog bite. That's what it said. It didn't say anything about scratches. The vet report said dog bite. Indicates to us that this is between 2 dogs, it's play and not a vicious attack. If Bear were to really viciously attack, there would have been a vet report to support this action. Next, we'd like to point out a few things from the witness report of Amanda Reesberg. It's in your file folder labeled Amanda Reesberg. I've highlighted some really important things I think you should know. This is the witness report Officer Farron told us, told Jared and I would be used by Police Chief Burke to help him make the decision that Bear was a vicious animal. First and foremost, in the 3rd paragraph, I have highlighted, Amanda says, I watched from inside my house. As it first appeared, Bear was simply sniffing the other dog. So, Amanda was not present at the scene at all. She was inside her home looking out a window, 2 doors down. I say 2 doors down because Molly told us it was on our property line. And it is important for you to know the girls were walking away from Amanda's house and towards my house. This means Amanda was looking at the back sides of the girls, with the dogs obviously being in front of the girls. How could she see properly to make these accusations? Again, she was inside her house looking out a window and looking at the back sides of the girls 2 doors away. She says Bear was growling and the other dog yelped. Tell me how she would know this from inside her house. How could she hear it? And how would she know which dog was barking and which dog was yelping? She later says, from my vantage point, it appeared Bear bit the other dog. It appeared? She is not certain of anything. She is speculating and using assumptions here. Finally, and most importantly, in the third to last paragraph, Amanda says, I hurried to assist, and when I arrived at the scene, the girls had the dogs in their arms. So in her own words, Amanda says she arrived at the scene when it was all over with. The dogs were being held by the girls and by Molly. How can this be a credible witness? A witness watching from a window in her house, and when she did make it outside, the entire encounter was over. To use this witness report is completely unfair to Bear and the Menke family. It is clearly unreliable. The last point we'd like to make is in regards to how the final decision was made to deem our Bear a vicious animal. When Officer Farron came to our home to tell us Bear was a vicious animal and we had 3 days to get her out of the city limits, We were obviously shocked and devastated. Our little girl doesn't have her brothers and sisters at home anymore. She has her bear. The human side to all of this is what is most important. We're not talking about running a red light where you get a ticket and pay your fine. This isn't that easy. We're talking about taking away a little girl's best friend. Our daughter sleeps with Bear every night. She and Bear have a bond that is unbreakable. She has cried her heart out over this. She is lost without her Bear. As you can see in the pictures, and please look at the pictures, Bear and Jersey love each other very much. If any of you have a dog and treat your dog as a family member like we do, imagine having her ripped away from you. It's a nightmare, and it's just crushed our family. Before Officer Farron left our house, we asked him, who will make this decision on Bear's fate? He said, Police Chief Burke. Police Chief Burke, with all due respect, we don't understand how you can come to this ruling without a fair and just investigation. You made a decision to remove an important member of our family without looking at both sides of the case. I'd like to point out that Mr. Burke did not spend 1 second hearing from myself, from my husband, or more importantly, Molly, our 22-year-old dog sitter that was actually at the scene and saw everything. He did not call us, send 1 email, text, nothing. Our side was not heard from at all. Again, this is not like getting a traffic ticket. This is a situation where the consequence is removing our beloved pet forever. You would think we deserved to be heard from. Instead, 100% of the evidence was gathered from the Mensers. And if you don't already know, Mr. Menser is one of Police Chief Burke's police officers. We think that it's pretty fair to speculate that the Menke family was ignored and treated unfairly. Besides hearing from the Mensers, Police Chief Burke heard from the witness report of Amanda Reesberg, a witness looking from inside her house 2 doors down and looking at the backsides of the girls. A witness who admits she arrived at the scene when the girls and Molly were holding the dogs and the scene was all over with. We have been told by another police officer in town that in the past, the police chief would visit the home, see the dog, and spend time asking questions. None of this was done. We feel this case was handled unprofessionally and with disregard to our family. In closing, we believe truly in our hearts that Bear was not viciously attacking. We believe she was wanting to play and began mouthing, just as she does with Lizzie's dog, Leo, and our dogs at home. This is not attacking, rather it's how dogs interact with each other. It's their way of being playful. If you know dogs like we do, you know this to be true. We do regret not having Bear on a leash. 99% of the time we would be home and this would have never happened. We could promise you Bear will never be outside again without a leash on. Please consider everything we have explained and allow us to bring our Bear back home. We would love nothing more to come home to our little girl who wanted to come tonight, but she didn't think she could do it. And we would love to tell her that our Bear is coming back home. Also included in your folder is a petition from neighbors and family and friends that know Bear, and there's not a lot. We just wanted people on there that actually know Bear and spent time with her. And the other statement is from my elderly neighbor, Larry Feltner, who he's in the backyard and he sees and plays with Bear almost daily. Thank you for your time.
I guess what I'd like to say is, no matter what you decide with my dog, I don't think the process was fair. Like Officer Farron said, nobody even called us. If our dog sitter wouldn't have informed Cindy that something happened, we wouldn't even know until she got a call 5 days later or whatever it was. Officer Farron thought it wasn't important to see the dog. I would say that it's important to my daughter to see the dog. She's heartbroken over the deal. And I feel bad whatever happened. But, I've had dogs my whole life. I know all you people have probably had dogs at some point. When 2 dogs get together and start sniffing each other, it says right in the report she was just sniffing around. Usually something happens. One dog's gonna not like what's going on. And if that's what happened, that's what happened. But to call this dog a vicious animal is a severe overreach. This dog is in Cherokee at my parents' house. They're nice enough to keep her while we're doing this. They're very social people. They've had 20, 30 people stop through in the time they've had the dog. They tell them the story and they just laugh. They're like, this is ridiculous. All this dog wants to do is be licked or lick you and get pet.
And
It's
then-
just, it's such an overreach. And I understand whatever happened. When I went over to pay Karen for the vet bill, which I fully, obviously we were gonna do, she said, well, I think it had a bruise on its leg. Her exact words, I think it had a bruise on its leg. I don't know how you see a bruise on a dog's leg, but here we go. Yeah,
Again, over and over again, our dogs at home, especially with their two other dogs, they lay around and they go for each other's legs. It's called mouthing, or we call it nom nom. It's just like this when dogs do this. And Bear does it constantly. And we have a written report from Lizzie that she does it not just with our dogs, but with other dogs in the neighborhood. And we believe that's how the bite mark got there, you know, and that it's a mark. We're gonna lose our dog because of a mark on a dog. I mean, my daughter is just completely, she's just torn. She cries every single day. It's her best buddy. And because of a bite mark, we're gonna lose our dog. It just does not seem fair, especially because we truly believe she wasn't attacking. She's a friendly, goofy, Frenchies are like little clown dogs. And they're not vengeful at all. It's not like a pit bull or a Doberman or whatever biting a person. This is two tiny dogs.
I don't know if that matters. If you guys want to pass this around, if you don't, play this.
And to
This is the
go
dog in
upon
question.
Amanda Reesberg, like I told you, that is not credible at all. It's just simply not fair. She's inside her house, and her house is there. The girls are walking this way, with the animals being in front of her. How can she see and how can she claim that this dog yelped and this dog barked? She's in her house. And then she says, when I arrived at the scene, it was over. The dogs are being held by the girls.
The other thing I would say is this is obviously not an attack on the police department. I fully support you guys, I always have, always will. I've gone out of my way to help when I can. I get a call once in a while for security footage from some property that we own. But the process seems super incomplete to me, the way it's handled. I mean, you didn't see my dog, Officer Farron didn't see my dog, but you passed judgment on it without doing anything. You read a piece of paper by somebody who I would say is incredible. We've lived up there for 12 years. That's the only person in my neighborhood that I don't get along with. Besides the dog stuff, there's a little personal stuff that goes on behind doors. I won't get into it. It's not a place for it. But that is the most not credible person to get a statement from about my
I
animal.
don't think you can direct it that way.
Yeah.
Am I right?
No, not
I don't
here.
think you should direct it that
Yeah.
way.
Okay, we don't really need to, because the facts that we told you, we hope are enough.
And when I asked Cindy asked Officer Farron, is the dog okay? He laughed and said she's fine.
And we asked,
That's all I got to
I
say.
asked Mr. Farron as well, right away, how is the dog? The dog's fine. Everybody said the dog's fine. I've seen the girls walking the dog is fine. And not saying we feel terrible about the girls. It's happened to me when I was a little girl. A dog comes up, you're gonna get scared, you're frightened as a little girl, you move on. I hate to say it, but that's life. And things like that happen. As a parent, you're there for them and you support them. And you pick up the phone like we would have done, and we would have called you guys, and we would have not done this to you. We would have worked it out between us.
Can we focus back to the council?
That's why I want to talk
No,
after a while.
I'm gonna talk to them. That's when I'm here, so I can.
Cindy, please. We
Okay,
have to kind
so
of keep it
anyway,
orderly
I'm
here.
it's just, we're not that type of people. We would have tried to handle it, so we wouldn't have our little
If
girl.
their dog would have
walking around.
allegedly did to our dog, we wouldn't be here.
Can I go up with you?
Okay. Thank you.
Mark, I want to
Gail.
talk too. Gail, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I do.
Gail, you can approach and we'll swear you in at this time.
Can I give a real soft, can I go with her?
We'll do it one at a time, Joan. We'll get to you. We'll get to
You
you
guys
here.
want to go home for supper?
Oh, no. We're all right. I got plenty to eat last night.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your
I
name for the record.
know Gail Niehaus. My sister is Cindy. I dealt with her for the week after this happened, and I tell you, I thought I was gonna bring my niece and my sister to the hospital. Because you guys, do any of you own pets?
Did.
Well, I'm gonna say,
Did.
yes. Some of you did. You did. I know you did. You're my neighbor. I've seen your dogs. I've seen your dogs. I won't go any further. But anyway, you guys, your rules have gotta be changed. I agree 100% if a pet attacks a human being, that's a whole nother ballpark. Or if a pet, mom and dad had a little dog and a neighbor down the street's lab got loose and bit our dog in half. What did you spend putting that damn dog back together? Did we file charges? No, my dad made the dog better, brought it to the vet. All I'm saying is I will, she's not going to, but I will, with her help, we're gonna change this dog thing. Because I've read in the paper, I listened on the radio, a pet, you guys know what a dog spat is? Do you know what it is? It's like human beings spatting. Blech. Dogs do the same thing. Doesn't mean they're going for their jugular. Now that might be enough of a breed. But this whole thing needs to be changed. And you're here all the time hearing people's stories. My dog I have a little fuzzball dust mop. My grandkids come, guess what happens? Grandma, blip, there goes Willow. It happens. Come on, be realistic. It's gotta be on a leash. You tell me my 80-year-old mother who has a dog, or 88, and her little dog gets out because somebody comes and visits? It's stupid. It's stupid. You guys gotta realize that. It doesn't even make sense. The dog wasn't on the leash. The dog wasn't on my property. Be realistic. Again, if you bite another human being, or, that's a whole nother, that makes sense. But a dog spat? My other daughter just moved back from Arizona. She lived there for 3.5 years and then went to California. Do you think dogs are on leashes in dog parks? Do you think they're on leashes? They're not. That's what a dog park is, and dogs can be around dogs. And I'm nothing against the little girls. I bet they were scared. They probably never saw a dog spat. And I'm guessing maybe you started screaming and got upset. Well, what's that do to dogs? That's all I gotta say. Bear is a good dog. I'm up there all the time. And you got a little dog. They had a spat. It happens. So I will personally, if somebody doesn't look into this further, because it's gonna keep happening, guys. You're gonna be here over and over on a family pet. Now, if you got a dog in the alleyway that's chained up with you know what I'm talking about. Some people don't take care of their pets. I get it. Well, that's your guys' job to say, hey, do something, take care of it. A little house pet running out the front door that runs across the street. My neighbor's, Alan's runs, mine runs, Berg's run. You guys, I know some people on this board that their dogs were running a couple weeks ago. I'm not gonna point any fingers, but you need to readdress the issue. Thank you.
Gail, thanks for so essentially your testimony is that Bear's a good dog. I mean, as much as I appreciate.
And I think the kids, the girls got spooked.
Yeah.
The dog did what it did. The dogs had a spat.
Okay. Let me finish, Gail. And as much as I appreciate the testimony and your opinion, I don't think that's what is in debate tonight. I mean, if that's something.
It needs to be addressed.
And so the council has heard
People
that.
have to go through this.
Yes, and it would, if so, then it would become another item on an agenda, and you'd be most invited to share your opinion. Okay, thank you. Joni?
Yeah, these people want to get home for supper or else go to Kirk's for a beer. I don't know, but anyway, I'm the grandmother. I swear you bet.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Betcha.
Please state your name for the record.
Okay, as funny as it was, just before I left tonight, I got a flyer in the mail from a guy that's gonna be on the ballot. His top line was, I wanna change this hate from public life. Change hate from public life. That's what this candidate was, his top line. Don't we have a lot of hate in this world? God, you listen to 10 o'clock news, you make a check on your paper every time there's hate brought up. It's just full of hate. And if you guys didn't go down to the Red Bright last night, you missed a wonderful night. I was there, I had guys at my house, I bet I heard it 50 times if I heard it once. You guys are so damn lucky you're living in Carroll. They told me of stuff people they never saw before. They were short $1. The guy just picked up $1. They went up to the St. Lawrence $10 chicken, or what was it, pork chops. They throw a 20 down, keep the change. He said, you guys have been so damn good to us here. He said, you think this was Christmas. Now that's a tribute to you guys here that are running this darn town. And I'm so damn proud to be living here. I've been a Carroll County citizen almost 90 years, one more year. And I've been a Carroll resident 60-some years. When did it ever start that neighbors don't talk to each other? Why didn't the neighbor call the other home and say, right away, we got a problem, our 2 dogs are fighting? What do? They call the cop. I wouldn't in 100 years call a cop if my dog got hurt. The dog was on our house was Schenkelberg's. How many generations down, Schenkelberg's brought our town to glory. It was a Schenkelberg dog. What are we gonna do? He ripped the gut in our dog. We took him to the vet and got him sewed up. And Schenk says, how's the dog doing? I said, real good. He sewed him up. He's gonna be fine. It's a dog. 39 years later, we got a call from a human mistake that killed our son. A father of 3 small children. This is a human being. Did Bob and Art Wright sue each other? You would have saw those 2 men came to our kitchen that night and hugged and sobbed on each other's shoulders. Art was controlling the crane, and Jack, my boy, and our nephew killed right there. Think about a dog that's playing dog play. That's what I want you guys to think of. Dogs are dogs. I was raised on a farm. Carroll, they were 2 dogs, a neighbor dog would come. Sure, they're gonna fight. If it would have killed the dog, or like the lady that got her leg all chewed up a couple of weeks in Carroll, that's serious, yeah. But this is a dog, nothing happened. Neighbors, talk to each other, call each other when you got troubles. Don't call the cops, they got enough trouble with marijuana and what's that other stuff they got? You get called enough, you don't need to be worrying about a dog pooping in somebody else's yard. So let's take this down to bare ground. Thanks.
Thank you, Joni. And, once again, the matter at hand is, whether or not this is declared a vicious animal tonight, and not necessarily whether or not neighbors need to get along better. I think we're, no one's disputing that, but tonight's issue is just whether or not to declare this, or to uphold whether the.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
more
you
than
very
welcome.
much.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak on behalf of the Menkeys?
I talk fast.
Last chance, nobody here? Anything you want to add yet?
Just a couple items to address from Menke's thing. When they started off, they talking about Molly, and also she was unsure of location. So if you're going to try to dispute witness testimony, they both are kind of unsure, but they are all pointing that the dog was off the property of the Menke's when this did happen.
No, Molly said it was on the Menke property line, if you look at Molly's.
Mhm,
Do you
says
have
it
Molly's statement?
close.
I do not
Said
know.
closer.
They do, and it said it's on
it was
our property
closer.
line.
They
So that
they
was just-
they talk about how their daughter's devastated. Obviously, the Menser daughter's devastated, which you saw tonight too. As far as the investigation goes, it's like any other investigation. We look at the evidence. I don't look at the person behind it or the dog behind it, because that's not what we're looking for. It's like a car accident. We're gonna look at the evidence, not the driver, unless there's intoxication. It's just not what we're looking for as far as the investigation goes. I don't meet with dogs. I'm not a dog person, so I don't care to meet with the dogs. The previous chief was, and he did, and the code was different at that time. So the code is what it is. If an animal is off the property and attacks another dog, as written in black and white in our code, then it would be deemed vicious. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay, again, in Molly's statement, she was there. She said it was on the Menke property line.
On the sidewalk.
It says, if you look at it, and everybody else can see it, on the Menke property line. So that is
Excuse
where it
me,
happened, and
that
according-
right, excuse me, I'm looking at it, and she said that we were on the front side of the house, and I saw her, the dog, start running.
Right.
This took place on the sidewalk in front of the Steinbach's house.
Read on.
If I remember right, it was closer to Cindy and Jared's property line.
Right.
The sidewalk is off your property.
But she said it was on our property line. You're
She-
ignoring those words.
No, I am not. If I remember right, it was closer to your property line, but she said it was in front, point to the Steinbach's house.
They live right next door to us.
Okay, so she
And
said
so
it was
between
in.
the Steinbachs and our property
Okay.
line, we like share a driveway.
Well,
Or share our yards go right up next to each other.
You want us to read her statement, so I am. I'm taking everything she said into consideration. But she was off your property on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is public property. So that, I'm looking at the standards we have to deal with now.
Right.
Maybe this does need to be reviewed, I don't know. But and you said that your dog, you truly believe that your dog ran out of the garage, I'm assuming, and to initiate play. So to me, another criterion is without provocation. Nobody said anything about the Menser dog provoking your dog. So it's one criterion is without provocation. Your words were initiated. So your dog initiated the contact. And you did say a bite mark, which was in the vet's thing. So Iowa code talks about owners being responsible whether it's one bite or more. They don't have a one bite exception. And we've been through this so much that it's something we all need to be aware of. But if your dog bit, it was not provoked, and it was off your property. Though I
disagree with you on the property thing. It says on the Menke property line. I
So-
don't know what you're not seeing there.
It doesn't say that.
I'm reading straight from Molly's statement,
And it says
Cynthia.
on the Menke property line.
She said, if I
You're
remember
not wanting
right.
it to say that, so you're reversing it. It says
No,
on the
I'm
Menke
not.
property line. And
Please,
she
let
was
me finish.
initiating play.
Would you please, we listen to you very respectfully. I'm reading verbatim from the statement. And she said this took place on the sidewalk. And that statement in front of the Steinbach's house. I have to consider that as well as the sentence that follows. If I remember right, so she's thinking, if I remember right, it was closer to Cindy and Jared's property line. So I'm
Right.
considering the entire context, Cynthia. So I'm reading what you asked us to read. And we're asked to apply what happened to the code as it exists now. That's what we're dealing with. Whether people like it or not, this is our job.
Brad, I'm sorry, when did this ordinance take effect? And it is related to this case, but I'm just curious, is it 4 or 5 years old?
It's probably longer
A
than that.
little longer than that, I
It's
just,
probably closer to. I
was
don't know,
Jeff still the police chief at the time, or was it following you? Can't remember.
Maybe,
Right in
I don't know,
between there.
I don't recall.
That's all right, but the reason why I'm asking is, a point was made earlier that, that this is happening, it's almost reached epidemic point, but, what has changed within the last several months rather than the last 5 to 10 years? I'm just curious, but it does pertain to this and that I want the council to consider.
I just have one more thing to say in regards to Mr. Burke. You say you don't like dogs and you don't visit the dogs, but I thought you could have given some time to Molly.
who was actually there, because you certainly listened to him, your police officer, and to Amanda. But you gave 0 time to Molly.
Okay, is there anything else? Does council wish to make any comments before we vote?
Any rebuttals on anything that was said earlier? None on each side, okay.
Anybody else?
I know for me, I have 2 dogs, and I know how those 2 wrestle and play and bite at each other's legs. If somebody was reading this and didn't know that those were my dogs, I'd have 2 vicious animals. So I do think maybe there is a point that it's too strict. If it's a human, way different, I totally agree. But if somebody's seen my 2 dogs that I have, I would have 2 vicious animals.
Carl, I don't disagree with you, but it's written the way it is, you know? There's nothing we can change right now. In the future, I can see that, but it's the ordinance.
Yeah.
And I just sit here and look at the facts and figures, that's all I do. And it sucks being up here to make these decisions and hear all this and go through it, but the basis is it still needs to be on a leash. It attacked another animal, not a human, but in the ordinance, it's human or animal, you know? And would I like to change it? Yeah. I'd make the recommendation to.
Way to go.
So a vicious animal, by the code, is not one that plays or wrestles but by the code,
Bites.
nope, attacks is the key word. Not bites, but attacks. So what's before you tonight is whether or not a Menser dog was attacked. Any animal with a history to cause injury may or may not be the case here. Any animal that has been trained for dog fighting certainly isn't the case. But, you know, playful isn't, you know, or wrestling or dogs are dogs or sniffing isn't part of the ordinance. The ordinance is attacked. I think that's the key word.
And we have to be consistent with the Iowa code.
That's what
And I looked it up to see, are we off base or something? And it even says, the owner of a dog is liable, blah, 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 for the dog when the dog is caught in the action of worrying, which means agitating, maiming or killing a domestic animal, or the dog is attacking or attempting to bite a person. So it includes both animals and humans. It's chapter 351.28. And in the Iowa code. So, you know, we can look at this, but we still have to follow Iowa code with whatever, am I correct, Brad? I mean, we have to be.
It is, and they overlap a little bit. Of course, our city ordinance goes into more depth as far as attacking does, but
Yeah.
we do have to follow some of the Iowa code also. Well, we have to follow the Iowa code.
Yeah.
We can expand on it a little bit.
So yeah.
So wouldn't you agree then, Dave, that what's before the council tonight is to deem whether or not there was an attack that occurred? Would you agree with that? Or do you want to clarify that? Am I not
No,
right on
I
that?
would. We set out the elements prior to the hearing beginning, and that's what the council needs to go by. You just need to go through the elements and determine if yes or no.
Okay. Unless there's any further discussion or comments, I would seek a motion to either affirm the chief's declaration or to reverse it. Is there a motion to that effect either way?
I'm not really sure where I'm gonna be at with this. It just seems to me like there's not enough solid evidence. Maybe I'm missing something. It's kind of like a he said, she said situation, so I asked for some rebuttals and I didn't get it, so that makes me more confused. That's where, I don't know how to vote on this.
Well,
You know, I get the code, but there's just, to me, there's a little bit of a gray area on here, on exactly what happened and how it happened.
Well, we can take our time. We're not hungry yet, Joni, so we're all right. You can tell that we're well fed, so,
Buy your supper.
yeah. But yeah, take as much time as you need. I mean, I didn't leave my car
Well,
running.
I don't know, it's at large, as Dave said, not under control of a competent person. Cynthia said that their dog initiated play, thinking that, speculating what was going on. It was not provoked. It was off their property, and a bite mark was indicated by the vet. So, considering both,
The bite mark could be from playful interaction.
And I think somewhere in there it
Happens all
says,
the time.
I think somewhere in
again-
there it says in Molly's statement, I'm not sure, I read it at one time, that their dog was growling and our dog too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and according to Iowa code, it doesn't even have to be a bite. It can just be worrying the dog,
I'm sorry, as
upsetting
far
the
as
dog.
provocation.
And was our dog actually attacking
Yeah,
that dog?
the council at this point is needing to deliberate.
I think
So,
you've
I mean, we've
given-
heard, that's all right. I mean, we
Jared
get
and
it, but
Cynthia, you've given us food for thought, I believe, as far as visiting with Chief Burke and looking at having him explain to us precisely what we need to do to follow Iowa code. So I think our code is clear. And based on what our code says, it appears that the 3 criteria are met. Whether it's fair or not, I'm open to revisiting it. But this is, as I said earlier, this is what we're dealing with tonight.
so once again, we're just at a position, if you want a little bit more time, that's fine. But we're still at a position to either affirm or to reverse. That's where we're at. So I would need a motion whenever someone is ready to do so.
I'm not quite, here's what I'm worried, this is what I don't like about this, is we're discussing that we have to maybe look at the code, because it's a dog versus dog. Tom, you stressed that.
Yeah.
So.
Dogs will be dogs, but.
So where I'm having trouble with this is we're going to make a decision based off the code now that's gonna eliminate this dog. And we're gonna go and meet sometime and redo the code, and depending on what that is, what happened tonight may be okay. But now this dog is gone for them, and we may change it. Is there, this
That's
is.
true for all the,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
true.
I mean, if someone's parking wrong.
It's true
and-
for all, so then other people are gonna look at us as being arbitrary. So I feel like we're putting ourselves in a box.
In a way, this is no different than the other 3 or 4 that
No.
we've listened to. I mean, both sides have offered compelling evidence, that does not make this any easier. I don't think, any of us that have a pet owner certainly understand what it is to our daughters. And then again, at the same time, we are here as oversight, to uphold code. And so, there belies,
And we
but
take an oath to do
Yep.
that when we're sworn in.
that's right. So,
You're right.
So we may not like what we're dealing with, but
And it's nothing personal. I get along
No,
with all you guys. I
not
get
at
along
all.
with you. I get along, these just suck, but it's an ordinance and, what do you do? The
yeah.
only thing we can do is try to change it in the future and move on.
Guys, we give drunk drivers a grace period not
Yeah.
to screw up again. This is a dog.
okay.
But I don't have
Okay.
we don't have a drunk driver
It,
grace period in here though, so.
don't.
And what kind of makes it even a little bit more challenging too is, as we
Maybe you should
mentioned
ask the
earlier, is
little
we
girls
have
if they want-
a Gail.
Do you want her dog to be taken
Gail?
away?
Don't do that.
I didn't think so.
As I was saying, what makes it a little bit more challenging tonight is we've got one council person recused, and then we've got another one missing, and so as Dave outlined before, there must be 3 votes to uphold whatever motion is put forth, to either affirm or to reverse. Did you have something you want to add? But we kind of got to draw it to a close here pretty quick.
I was just gonna share,
It's up to the council now.
I was just
But
gonna
I'll
share,
give you equal
it-
opportunity.
I was at I have a sunroom with a glass door. So I had a pretty clear view of what was happening. Obviously, not super anxious to speak up again after I've had my character attacked. But it was pretty clear that, it was pretty clear to me what happened. And I stand behind what I wrote in my statement as the truth. And
Okay.
I saw it as a firsthand witness.
Okay, thank you. So once again, I'm just going to limit it now to just the council. Again, I really need to keep it that way. Take as much time as you need, but we'll need a motion to either, affirm or to reverse Brad's declaration.
I'll make the motion to affirm based on applying the criteria and not being arbitrary. It's very similar to many we've dealt with. But I think several people have said we're open to reconsidering it, so you have made an impact. But we're dealing with what's on the books now.
Is there a second to that?
No second.
So we have a motion by Carolyn and a second by Tom to affirm Chief Burke's declaration of a vicious dog. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Bornero,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Bauer.
No.
3-1, motion is approved.
Yeah, motion carries.
So if this gets changed, can we go back and get Bear back? If the rule gets changed?
I've never been in this position before, Cindy, quite frankly. I'm going to seek counsel, not to throw it on you, but I'm sorry, I'm still a rookie at this. Never been in this position before, and I'm not going to make a statement that couldn't be validated. But again, at the same time, don't look for it to happen next week, next
I know
council session. But what's being asked of you is for the dog to be removed from city city.
My dog's been removed for.
Correct. And so to keep it that way. And so if she is available, still, available to you, back available to you, and if the council would ever make an amendment to this that would allow for that, I'll let you finish that off. But-
Yeah, Cindy, the only thing I would say is the event occurred during the period where the present ordinance is in effect. So that's what this council would need to follow. If they would determine 6 months from now that they want to amend the ordinance, it wouldn't help you,
Okay,
okay?
so I gotta go home and tell my daughter that she's lost her dog. I think you guys got some serious work to do. Neighbors?
Okay. That concludes tonight's agenda. Committee reports, they're in the comments. No comments from the mayor. City Council, Laverne, were you good with the baseball thing earlier? Any comments from other city council? Hearing none? Looking your way. Need a promotion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Tom and then Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none? Roll call, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Shrek. Yes. Seaman,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bornero.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.